Yeah. Big JTV. Like, comment, subscribe, like, comment. Of course, subscribe. We got to talk about it. And I don't really want to talk about it because I'm a big fan of Francis Ngannou. I also lost money on this fight because I had Ngannou winning a decision. But we didn't even need to reach a decision because in less than 4 minutes, probably less than 6 minutes actually, this fight was done. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, depending on how you view it, the sport of boxing won majorly. And what happened was Francis Ngannou, if you haven't seen it already, I'm not going to post it because I don't want the zone to clap my channel. And YouTube has all types of censorship rules and issues. I'm going to post a link inside the description, which is going to have a Twitter link to the actual video. And if you haven't seen it, bruh, just open up any app. It's going to be up there. Francis Ngannou got knocked out in the second round. Second round in Saudi. And what's happened is we've came to a territory now where boxing needs these type of fights. And my thing is the heavyweight division needs these types of fights. It needs these type of fighters. All right. So let me get a little more precise with my analysis. If you really look at boxing, okay, especially to what it is in its current era, a lot of boxers don't box. Let me repeat what I just said. A lot of boxers don't box, meaning they're inactive. All right. One of the biggest differences between MMA and boxing is obviously the pay. Okay. And with that, MMA fighters get very, very bad pay. So I'm going to tie everything in together. The last UFC fight that Francis Ngannou had was against Cyril Gane. It was in 2022, and he got paid about $600,000. Okay, he rightfully is still a world champion, the heavyweight world champion in the UFC, but it had to be vacated and stripped. He lost that championship because he was in negotiations with Dana and the UFC for his next contract. He wanted to get paid more. Dana and the UFC, they're like, hell no, we don't pay our players. And since the UFC and the fighters, they don't have a union, they don't have no representative, this got very ugly and very gross. And then it got to the point where Ngannou, rightfully, I think so, decided to leave the UFC and then venture into boxing. And people didn't believe it, they didn't understand it. For me, even I had my doubts until it happened in the summer that, Tyson Fury said, I'm just going to pull up and embarrass this dude. It wasn't summer, it was October. Tyson Fury said, who cares, man? This dude, Francis Ngannou is going to come in my sport. I'm going to come through and I'm going to demolish him. Little did Tyson Fury know that he lost. He lost, but since it's boxing and it's corrupt, they gave, Tyson Fury the split decision because it would look absolutely terrible for a reigning heavyweight world champion in boxing to lose officially to what is an amateur. Okay? Now, what's happened in boxing, in this era of boxing, is that these promoters are greedy. These boxers are so greedy that they won't come out of bed unless they're getting multi-millions of dollars. Okay? They're not even caring about the sport. They don't want to be active. They don't want to actually compete to get, their pay. They want to wait and cherry pick their fights in order for them to get the maximum amount of pay. Now, logically, does that make sense? Yes, because it's a sport that's very dangerous, meaning that you can die in the ring. Multiple people have actually died in the boxing ring or had injuries that led to their death. That's not even a joke. So it makes sense. But that's the problem here, right? Boxing won tonight because an extremely active boxer, pure boxer called Anthony Joshua, who has had 4 fights within the last 11 months, won and knocked the hell out of what Francis Ngannou is, an MMA fighter. And this is not to disrespect MMA. It's not to disrespect the UFC, because if you are a UFC fighter, an MMA fighter, there's a 99% chance that you can whoop any walking human on this earth. There's a 99% chance, because you have the skills and aptitude, not only to do the stand-up game, but the ground game. See, the UFC was created as the Ultimate Fighting Championship in the 90s, and they mixed all types of disciplines within combat sports. Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, karate, boxing. And guess what? Now, with the evolution of, the sport of MMA, you have multiple fighters who are great at all kinds of disciplines that involve combat. One of them fighters is Francis Ngannou. But, and here's the big but, if you isolate one of those disciplines, of course, that MMA fighter will not be proficient or as great at that discipline. Okay? Let me give you a great example of this. Okay? There's a former MMA fighter called Ben Askren. Now, Ben Askren was knocked out by Jake Paul, but we're going to talk about Jake Paul in my next video. But Ben Askren is a very, very good wrestler within the sport of MMA. His great skill set is wrestling, right? But there's also a wrestler called Jordan Burroughs, okay? This guy, Jordan Burroughs, is a Olympic gold medalist wrestler. Jordan Burroughs did, I think, some kind of, match against Ben Askren, wiped the floor with him. Okay, and Ben Askren, when he competes against legit big-time wrestlers, he gets embarrassed. He gets cooked. Because why? Those wrestlers are specialists. They're uniquely great at the sport of wrestling. What does this have to do with Ngannou and Anthony Joshua? Anthony Joshua has been boxing since he was a little boy. AJ was the form, even though I sometimes have doubts about him, even though AJ has some fights where he physically turns off, not physically, mentally turns it off and doesn't lock in. But AJ is a former heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, AJ has fought a ton of fighters. And what happened in this fight versus Francis Ngannou is that AJ realized that, sometimes Francis Ngannou's hands are low. And he found the perfect opening for that overhand right and ended the night very, very early. But if you look at the fight in general, AJ was getting Francis Ngannou with the jab all throughout the fight because AJ is a specialist. AJ is a former champion, and no matter what, you can't take that from him. You can't take, his qualification, his history, his muscle memory, his, respect and understanding of the sport. Same way that if AJ decided to do MMA, which he never will because he'd get embarrassed even worse than this, he would never do that. Same way Tyson Fury keeps on talking and flirting about it, but if Tyson Fury ever sniffed an octagon, he would get destroyed. Like, I'm guaranteeing you, at the top 10 UFC heavyweights would clean Anthony Joshua's clock, and they would clean Tyson Fury's clock. It is what it is, because that's what they specialize in. So for me, I say boxing won tonight. Big ups to boxing. Big ups to, Anthony Joshua. And I'm really proud of AJ because this is the most locked in that he's looked. He looked borderline pissed off that he was even in this situation and not contending for a belt, because AJ has only been, fighting championship fights for the last 3-4 years. That's basically all he does. And he felt insulted. He felt disrespected and decided to exact that anger on Francis Ngannou. And it was night-night. It was night-night. I predict that Ngannou will go back to the PFL, back to MMA. I predict that Ngannou will start to do potentially some tune-up fights in the future, and eventually he will have maybe, this is a possibility because Ngannou is 37 years old. He's not a young spring chicken, but maybe he has one other big payday left, and that is Deontay Wilder. Both coming off losses, both records looking fishy. It would be a big come up not only for Deontay Wilder, but it could be a big come up for Francis as well. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Longer video than usual. Hey, I appreciate y'all for showing love. Hey man, boxing is getting fun. I'm looking like a whole boxing channel out here. The Tyson and Jake Paul video is coming up soon, man. Big JTV, I'm out.